I was born and raised in Argentina. I thought the life in the small town in the Pampas was another film that I hadn't chosen to see.
As a little boy, he would go to the movies. Almost every day in this tiny movie theater with wooden seats he sat. That was his escape.
Because the life in the small town was worse than anything possible, worse than poison. So the moment the film was on, it was purification.
He found reality in the classic Hollywood movies of the 1930s and 40s. In Jean Harlow, Greta Garbo, Rita Hayworth, women living in a male-dominated society who somehow got exactly what they wanted in the end.
As far as I can remember, the only thing that made a man feel well was power. The power of money or the power of the fist. Reflection or sensitivity had no prestige whatsoever. Men had to be sure of themselves, and if you were not pushing somebody around, you didn't have your diploma. You needed somebody underneath. That gave you identity. I could see nothing but betrayal and degradation. It was a sickness in Argentina.
This was a very bad time in Argentina. People were disappearing. The forces of repression were everywhere. Repression and censorship. The year was 1973. He'd been getting death threats.
Argentina in those days was under a military regime, and the censorship conditions were quite peculiar. I was in a long list with left-wing people who had endorsed Peronism. The AAA, a Nazi organization protected by Isabel Perón, called my parents' house to ask me to leave the country in 24 hours, or else.
As he was preparing to flee, he got word that the authorities had just released some political prisoners, and he just flew to them, to talk to them, to try to find out what this experience was like. He spent hours interviewing them, taking notes about their daily life, about surviving the torture. And he fled his Argentine homeland forever, but he left with an idea, the seed of an idea that would become his next novel, Kiss of the Spider-Woman. But really the book wasn't about Marxist revolutionaries or political prisoners at all. It was about social oppression, about submission to macho domination. That was Manuel's central theme throughout all his life, the role of the submissive woman.
I left Argentina because I feared I would develop self-censorship if I stayed there. My novels had been translated into many languages, and that allowed me to live in exile without problems. And suddenly, the Argentinian readers discovered me, and I became a bestseller. I have never believed in explicit political novels. I've never written one. I want to deal with real characters. And if they are so, they inevitably establish a political environment. And I believe in the subversive power of the unconscious. What I wanted to do in '73 was something about the submissive woman. It was the beginning of the big polemic of feminists, and I agreed with the women's liberation movement totally, but I thought there was one aspect being neglected. If the role of the submissive woman had survived so many centuries, it had been because it presented some kind of advantage. It couldn't have been all bad. No? So I wanted to know what was the pleasure behind the submissive woman's role. So I wanted to do a novel about that, but I couldn't find a living model of a woman interesting enough that would defend the submissive woman's role. No? I wanted her to be the center of the novel. Somebody being articulate enough, to say, no, I want to stay this way. I like it, I enjoy it. So I started to look for a model, since I always work with that method. Not inventing too much, but copying from reality. And I couldn't find, in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, in 72, 73, I couldn't find one single woman totally convinced that role wasn't. Everybody had doubts. So one day I hear a voice, not feminine, but effeminate, saying, "Oh, I love to be, I love to be dominated." Well, so I said, the only woman left to defend this is one who cannot make the real experience. So that is the main character in the novel. It's the only woman alive ready to defend that fabulous proposition. And well, that was the beginning of this novel, of Kiss of the Spider Woman.